question?
Since you're not a federally recognized tribe, why should Ohioans care what you are saying today?
Well, we never relinquish our rights or our claim to this land. And as Aboriginal people of this land, and the United States as part of the United Nations, we're under the jurisdiction of the United Nations and the rights of indigenous people.
You heard him? He said Aboriginal people to this land and indigenous people. Black people was in the Americas before the transatlantic slave trade.
And that drafted declaration was passed in September of 2007.
Did you say that your long-term goal is not to have a casino here?
No,
for yourself?
no.
Tell me again why you support this. Why do you support this?
Well, we support it because if Ohio is not strong, then our tribe is not going to be strong in economic development. Our focus on economic development is construction, education through our audio, video, and furniture in the hotels. So if they're going to bring or keep the money in, part of it, you have to look at it that what they're doing is, as a first aid, they're applying pressure to a wound that's bleeding. Your money is bleeding over into other states. So by stopping the money from going to other states, you could at least circulate it in Ohio and build from within.
Is that your legal name, Mr. Brownie?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and you live in Madison?
I do.
And these members that you say that are with you, and forgive me for being questioning, but people are always, you say, where are these 100? Are they across the country, across the U.S.?
Well, we have 139 in various states. But you have to remember, our mounds are all over North America, from coast to coast.
So are you telling us that there's a dispute here about whether an Indian casino might move in? You're saying it's just a coincidence that you are seeking to be a federally recognized Indian tribe and that you're getting involved in this. You're really not getting involved in this at all because your tribe wants to have a casino here. It has nothing to do with it.
Correct, except for one portion. You said seeking. We are not seeking federal recognition. We don't need federal recognition. In fact, if we wanted to do a casino in Ohio, we wouldn't need federal recognition to be able to do it. There was a precedent that was set in the beginning before the founding of America by the British as to who really has the power to do that. But we are not currently pursuing casino gaming in Ohio.
Wait a minute, you just said that tribes don't need to get any kind of approval to have a casino here?
Not from the federal government. There's a precedent that's already set. We've done the research. We have, you can do the research online and end up finding who is the expert in Indian gaming. We looked into that avenue, but we're not interested in doing, this issue 6 is not our primary focus. In reference to issue 6 is economic development. I'll give you an example. If they build a $600 million casino, we have a Native American construction company. We want a piece of that action. We want to put in our furniture in the hotels, in the casinos, and we want to provide our AV rovers and the furniture and even do some of the construction in the Ohio schools. So if it's a huge project, say for instance, somebody is doing a waterworks project that's a $2 billion project. It would benefit us, being Native Americans, to be able to get a piece of the construction. So this is the largest project that I know of in Ohio, outside of the several $1 billion to support the Ohio schools from the money from the tobacco industry.
Citizens of the Creek Nation. They created freedmen citizens because they were adopted citizens. And of course, you had adopted whites who were on the rolls as well. So they were either citizens by blood or they were citizens by adoption.
Who determined what category they would fall into?
Who determined what category they were in was left to the Dawes Commission. And so the question is, why did the Dawes Commission have an ulterior motive in ruling the way they did? And I think they did. I know that Dawes himself was a racist. If you read the personal correspondence between his daughter Anna, who was his personal secretary the few times he was in Indian Territory, back to her mother about the Creeks, the Dawes Commission disliked the Cherokees most, Creeks second. And the thing they focused on was the number of African descended people, Creek Nation. And if you look at the correspondence within the Dawes family particularly, it is very explicit how they felt about Africanized people.
Explicit in terms of the language that they chose to use?
They called them niggers. That's what they called the Creeks. Niggers.
All Creeks. Full-blood Creeks, African Creeks, they were all...
Everybody.
I said Indians use grease to straighten their hair. He said we made that up. He said early explorers said straight hair, no curl. So let's take a real quick dive into the journal of Christopher Columbus and see what he said about their hair and appearance in general. They go as naked as when their mothers bore them, and so do the women, although I did not see more than one young girl. All I saw were youths, none more than 30 years of age. They are very well made, with very handsome bodies and very good countenances. Their hair is short and coarse, almost like the hairs on a horse's tail. They wear their hairs brought down to the eyebrows, except a few locks behind, which they kept long and never cut. And this is Christopher Columbus, the so-called earliest European explorer of the Americas. He didn't mention anything about the hair being straight. All he said was that it was coarse, and he said that it was short and coarse. That's it. Nothing about it being straight, curly, and nothing like that.
You heard that? He said Christopher Columbus said that the hair texture of the original people, or the first people he saw on the land, they had coarse hair or kinky hair or curly hair. He said nothing about no straight hair. So them other guys, the ones that look Indian, those Native Americans, brown skin and straight hair, when they got to the land, black people was already there. Where are the slave ships? You keep saying you came from Africa as slaves. Where are the slave ships? Shouldn't it be in a museum somewhere? Shouldn't it be parked up somewhere in an ocean or a river on the side? Because it's too big to hide. Slave ships was like the size of a city block from corner to corner, holding thousands of people. It's too big to hide. Where are the slave ships? Because you didn't come from Africa. You was already on the land in the Americas.
Now this right here is a screenshot from encyclopedia.com. It says Indians across North America smeared bear grease or bear fat and other oils on their hair to make it shine. Similar substances for smoothing and shining the hair were raccoon fat and deer marrow. Question: if their hair is naturally straight, why would they have to use oils and grease to smooth it out? Everyone who knows the point of smoothing your hair is to reduce the frizziness. And you could have just Googled this to make it easy. Yes, several Native American tribes traditionally use bear grease and other natural substances as a hair pomade to make hair shinier and to style it. I mean, does hair even look like it's in its natural state? It looks styled, right?
Okay, you're Seneca. Great. That's cute. Great. But let's not act like being indigenous is all about having a membership card. Bloodline runs deeper than paperwork. And the last that I checked, the Saponi and Seneca were existing prior to the colonizers coming over, handing out tribal roles. And not to mention, our ancestors didn't need the government to tell them who they were. So maybe instead of playing gatekeeper, you could actually sit down and tap into some ancestral memories.
Go back to your question. How many of us could possibly be and or are Native American? Mm-hmm. I couldn't even give you an accurate number because there were so many of us that was taken from America as Indians. This is documented to the West Indies. Yes. So many of us and Caribbeans, which I'm pretty sure that's going to be a question later on. So many of us that was written out as Negro, and that's a large problem within itself because we're not looking at the linguistics. Negro was not African. Negro was a description that the Spaniards used. It's a Spanish word. Black. It's black, right? And so anyone that was not European in color and nature was considered black. That did not mean you were not native.
You heard that? You heard what he said? So you was taken from America as Indians. So they know who you are. You just don't know who you are. These other groups of people and these other races, they know who you are. You just don't know who you are. This is why they labeled you as black and African. That's the smokescreen to confuse you so you don't know your true identity. You are an Indian. The Indians from India who you see today, who opened up gas stations and 7-Elevens in black communities, they was called black. While you was called Indian back in the days, they was called black. And for some reason, someone switched it around.
Right? So much of the narrative, it gets so deep when you really deep dive into the conversation. And here's the problem. The problem lies in when you accept the fact that Big Mama said, and you say, oh, my grandmother was full-blooded, and she had long flowing hair and all the different things. Right. But she don't look like the Indians of today, and you don't look like the Indians today. You don't want to talk about who you are or possibly could be, or the fact that you do have an indigenous bloodline, right? Because of what we're being shown today. So you mentioned me and my Instagram posts and things like that. And every time I open my mouth now, the last post, I'm like, I'm going to get in trouble for this because I'm changing the dynamics of what history has shown us, and not doing it for me. This is not me saying this is what I believe, this is what I think. No, everything I do, I use the facts, not black history and black narratives. I use white history and white narrative. That's why it's called his story. So I use his story to tell the truth, because again, it was against the law for Negroes or Indians to read.
Yes, sir.
People don't even question that part.
Powerful. Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Why? What were you hiding that you didn't want us to read?
It's the history and the facts.
It's the history and the facts.
Yeah.
So again, I give so much and I got so much in my head.
Please. You good.
It goes back to, again, taking the pieces of the puzzle and painting the picture for yourself, right? And so the picture says that there was a narrative, a situation that you needed to support what your cause was, right?
Yeah.
So we use words in a way that besuits us, that helps us. You know what I'm saying? And so to basically say to you is this: there is a large population of people of color who can readily identify their grandmothers or great-grandmothers being native, identifying themselves as native, because that was my story.
That's right.
Yet we walk away from it because we don't look like what we've been programmed to believe Native Americans look like. Now, with that, where it hurts us is because when we take the stories of Native Americans and what history says Native Americans look like through the depictions, the images, right? The written narratives, it contradicts what we see today.
That's right.
It contradicts it.
Yeah.
And you cannot put a Native American into slavery according to what they look like today and think that it wouldn't be obvious that they were slaves. They would look like the African people. They had to look like them. They had to sound like them. They had to, everything about them. And we still forget the African people that was brought over here were from tribes.
Nah, that's right.
Right? They were still rocking, you know, the deer hides and the skins, and these were things that was customary to them. You know what I mean? No clothes. And so again, I'm trying to go back to make sure I answer your question fully. We cannot truly and honestly say how many of us exist that are Native Americans. What we can do is take the historical information that we have and use that to our advantage. And one of the things I talked about on our Instagram channel recently was the fact that they documented there was more Native American exported to the West Indies than there was Africans imported into America. And the number they gave at that point in time, which was the 1600s to early 1707, 1680 to 1717, was 31 or 30,000 to 51,000.
Wow.
They didn't say year. They didn't say month. They just said 30 to 50,000 or 51,000 Native Americans was exported to the West Indies.